It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions.
Touchdown, San Diego!
Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, coming off a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, John Riley, in studio. We welcome you to the Monday bonus podcast. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects in the home, on the back patio, or at work, you need materials, you want ideas, we invite you to contact, we invite you to think about DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley, good afternoon. Pennant race, baby. NFL football. College football. We got so much to talk about. How was your great sports weekend?
It was my remote control was wearing out from clicking between all these different games, different sports. I mean, even the TUA controversy. This is going to be a great day.
We're going a lot of different directions, and when we're done, we're going to invite you to join us in what we call Fans Forum. Details to follow in just a second. Item 1, X marks the spot. The whole world is on social media. You're on social media. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on X. Just punch up my handle at Hacksaw1090, Hacksaw1090. Hit follow, because I put a lot of stuff up on social media on a regular basis. Want you to interact with me on social media. That's my website address. Right across the top of your screen, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I write on it every day. There's content there first thing every morning, regardless of what type of sport you like and follow. Check it out every day. I think you will like it. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do. Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. Invite you to subscribe every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, and that's a lot of different days of the week. In addition to our podcast, you'll get a notification of what is available, so subscribe so you will get the alerts. And when we're done with the topics on the table today on the Monday Bonus Podcast, John Riley's segment takes over. It's called Fans Forum. Just explain to the followers on the live stream how it works.
Yeah, so if you've got a question or comment in the world of sports for Hacksaw, now's your chance. So just type it in the live chat, Facebook, X, or on YouTube. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
We're going a lot of different directions on this program. John, pick a topic, because I got opinions on everything.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Okay, we're talking Padres-Dodgers. This pennant race is just dynamite.
Oh, what an unbelievable final 2 weeks of the baseball season that we have ahead of us. You got the Padres opening the homestand with Houston. You got the Dodgers finishing up in Atlanta and then coming home with an opportunity to try to regain their momentum. The Padres, a 1.5 lead over Arizona, 3.5 lead over Atlanta in the wild card race, 3.5 lead over the suddenly struggling New York Mets in the wild card race. Meanwhile, they get the Houston Astros here to begin this short homestand, final homestand regular season, and then they get the Chicago White Sox to finish out the homestand. The money players are earning their money. One night it's Tatis with home runs. The next night it could be Machado's bat. It could be Machado's glove. It's Musgrove coming off the deal and dealing like he used to deal when he was totally healthy. The big boys are playing at the most important part of the season, big-time baseball. Quick response on the Friars?
Oh, what a great sweep. And you had Musgrove and Cease, throwing 6 shutout innings each. And then even Perez looked pretty good for a while. The pitching was fantastic. If you're a Giants fan, you got to be, how in the hell they're not scoring any runs? But the Padres were so dominant, and there was a lot of defensive moments over the weekend. Great time to be a Padre fan.
Are you worried about Suarez? His ERA in the last month is 6.14. This is the guy that was at 1.42. He doesn't have bite in his fastball. He's got velocity, but it's straight balls, a 6.14 ERA. Wow, not the same pitcher.
Not the same guy, yeah. I mean, he's always Bobby fastballs. to your point, in the bite, you see that run, that kind of second gear when it's halfway, to the plate. We're not seeing that quite as sharp and as crisp as Suarez. You wonder if Schilt would ever rearrange the order of the back end of the bullpen.
He was asked that question yesterday, and he indicated not at this point, but Tanner Scott has closing ability. And obviously, Jason Adam has closed too, so there are insurance policies there if they need to give Suarez additional rest or if they want to rearrange the rows. That's Padre baseball, Dodger baseball. I don't know where to start with this because some of this is really catastrophic. The Dodgers knew the history of Tyler Glasnow, number 1 draft pick, Pittsburgh Pirates, all the elbow problems there, went to Tampa Bay, dominated, elbow problems. They knew what they were getting into when they gave him $136 million guaranteed, and now he's had the elbow flare-up, and now he's got a sprained elbow ligament. There's such history. They took a gamble that might not work out because I don't think he's going to pitch the rest of the season. Meanwhile, we had the unbelievable heroics for the Dodgers in the 9th inning of Sunday's game in Atlanta when they scored 7. It looked like it was going to be a lost weekend of the Braves because the Dodgers had stopped hitting. Walker Buehler, some days good, some days not so good. Boy, Sunday, he gave them 6 vintage Walker Buehler innings. That was pretty impressive. Huge question, though. What starters are you going to trust in postseason for the Dodgers? And then, by the way, outside of Michael Kopech and his 100-mile-an-hour fastball, are there any other relievers you can trust out of the Dodger bullpen? These are big storylines. Big storylines because Shohei Ohtani, Showtime, a week ago was told, we're going to cut back. You're not going to throw bullpen sessions. We'll just want you to concentrate on the DH thing. Glasnow gets hurt. Ohtani goes back and starts bullpen sessions again. And the theory is Dodgers may use him in the postseason out of the bullpen 1 inning at a time. He's had 6 bullpen sessions so far. Last one on the weekend in Atlanta, he threw 25 fastballs and breaking pitches, no problems at all. Meanwhile, Dave Roberts, the manager, just continues his pronounced vote of confidence to this team, even though they've been struggling to play above 500, seems like for the last month. Dave Roberts says, I believe in the talent, I believe in the character, I believe in the will to win. We will win. We are the Dodgers. So there's a ton of different topics here as it relates to Dodger Blue. The podium is yours.
The podium is mine. Well, first of all, Glasnow, you're right. There was a lot of risk with that guy, but he's good when he's healthy. He's a dominant pitcher.
Past tense. So I saw the report. He's likely done for the regular season. Could he maybe make a comeback in the playoffs, or he's out? I think he's out because you need ramp-up time, and we're going to get ramp-up time while the playoff games are going on.
Yeah, so because right now they're hunting for any kind of pitcher they can find. The Ohtani situation is interesting. I'm doing the timeline in my mind. When did he have the surgery? Because it wasn't like a regular Tommy John. It was that brace surgery, right? Mm-hmm. So the recovery period for that must be a lot shorter.
Brace is 8 to 12. The other is 14 to 18. Okay. So he had it in the middle of that last Angel season.
Mm.
If he's throwing bullpens max effort and has had no problems, I think he becomes eligible 1 inning out of the pen with a pitch limit.
There are some people that have speculated that Ohtani was better off in the bullpen in the first place. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, there's a wear and tear factor that's much different if you're a starter than if you're a reliever. But if they have to use him, and I get the tendency to think that they want to use him, that they need to use him, that it will be with kid gloves. It will be a small dose, and it won't be back-to-back days. It'll be a most critical situation where they will use him for 1 inning. He won't come back and pitch a second day, and they'll try to spot him along the way.
It reminds me of, remember the World Series where the Arizona Diamondbacks brought Randy Johnson in from the bullpen? The Giants did that with Madison Bumgarner, I remember.
And the Dodgers did it with Max Scherzer, and it blew up in their face. And he broke down.
Okay.
So this is fascinating to see where this goes. Glasnow is done. Ohtani might be the next call to the bullpen. Interesting. Okay, so we go from that baseball topic to one of the most interesting things I came across over the weekend. I said, how can I present this on the podcast so everybody on live stream will be able to understand what we're talking about? We're talking about what's left on the National League schedule. That's where we are. 2 weeks to go in the season. Padres close out with Astros, White Sox, and then the final 6 on the road at Arizona and at Dodger Stadium. Arizona, they got 4 with Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's in a dogfight for postseason home field advantage. That's not going to be an easy 4 games that the D-backs have to play. They got 3 with the Rocks, they got 3 with the hitless Giants, and obviously 3 with the Padres at the end at Chase Field. That schedule is a challenge because of what's next Milwaukee and what's going to happen at the end of the season, the Padres. Atlanta, 3 against the lowly Reds, 3 against the worst Miami Marlins, 3 against the Mets, and 3 against Kansas City, which is kind of faded. The Atlanta schedule, to me, looks pretty decent. Mets, this is bad. This is bad because it's hard. You got Philadelphia's Broad Street Bats. Yeah, you got 3 with Washington, but then you got 3 with the Braves and 3 with Milwaukee. So there's 10 games on that Mets schedule that are really rugged. And to complicate it, it looks like Francisco Lindor, their power-hitting shortstop, has re-injured his back. If they got to go the final 2 weeks of the season without Lindor in the batting order, I don't know that the Mets are going to make it. So, John, I don't think the Padres are going to catch the Dodgers, but I think these other teams in a wild card race are not going to be able to catch the Padres just because of the toughness of some of those schedules.
Yeah, but this is just playoff baseball, like pre-playoffs, really. Yep. And this is when it's really exciting. And we're doing the scoreboard watching, and I love this vibe during this time of the year. But yeah, you got for the Padres' perspective, the White Sox looks like a layup, but it's going to be tough the whole way through. And it is interesting. It makes you wonder what the motivations of the other teams are. Like, are they as desperate to win as the Padres? Because, like you say, the Royals are fading. The Padres are getting the Astros. Yeah, they're in first place by 4, I think it was 4.5 in the AL West. But are they going to be like all hands on deck to win like the Padres are?
Well, there's 2 weeks left. You don't want to give anything up now and let somebody catch you in the rearview mirror. Mm-hmm. That's a big issue. Actually, put those numbers back up there for a second. So, the Padres are facing Bregman and Jordan Alvarez in Houston. Then they get Arizona. Arizona's getting all their injured guys back. They're going to have a full lineup effective tonight. And then you got 3 at Dodger Stadium. I mean, there's 3 of those 4 series are pretty rugged. Arizona. I think that if those guys coming off the DL, the Marinos, the Christian Walker's already back, Marte is back, Arizona could probably dominate in some of those games, so they won't be behind the curve. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this is going to be tough. You look at these schedules, and I'm just thinking, they're battling for the number 4, 5, and 6 positions in the playoffs. But, if the Padres finish 4 and the Diamondbacks 5, they have to face each other in the first round, and all these teams are so hot. I mean, this is nuts.
Yeah. Then you got the Atlanta situation, and they've been running uphill all year because of the injuries, and I think Atlanta still has a legitimate chance to probably make it. And that Mets, that's a death march. I mean, look at who they got to play.
Yeah.
4 with Bryce Harper, 3 with everybody in Atlanta, and 3 with Milwaukee, which is fighting to breathe and keep itself in a prime wild card spot. And the other factor, if you don't have home field in the wild card, you're playing on the road for the rest of the fall. Even if you win the first round of wild card, you're still a road team. It's very, very hard. Mm-hmm. So it's critical to get the first wild card slot if you can't win the division.
Well, the Padres ended up winning 2 years ago on the road in New York against the Mets. So it can be done. The Padres are a good road team. But yeah, if you could get the home field advantage, and I'm thinking from the Padres' perspective, I want them to win the division so they can get the bye in the first round. Even though that seems to be the jinx lately, I still think it's a great thing for the team.
For them to get a group of days off, to get their pitchers in a rotation and rested and not fried.
Yeah.
I concur with you wholeheartedly. So if you're a baseball fan, the Fans Forum chat box is open. Padre fans, this is your cue to be with us. Dodger fans, jump on board. Want to hear what you've got to say, and then we'll talk about the scheduling that we just posted. We go from all things baseball What a weekend around the National Football League.
Yes, surprises up and down the schedule.
Surprise Sunday. Let's just run through this, and if you got opinions about your favorite team, join us right now in Fans Forum, which is starting to fill up. LA Rams. They went through last season's 10-win season, playoff season with virtually no injuries. They have been destroyed by injuries and were only 2 weeks into the schedule. They gave up 489 yards to the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, those Arizona Cardinals. Sean McVay was so upset. Post-game press conference, there is nothing positive to take from this experience. That's what he told the media, got up and left. Kyler Murray throws for 266 and 3 touchdowns. Marvin Harrison, 4 for 130 yards, 2 touchdown bombs. James Conner ran for 122. Rams couldn't protect Matthew Stafford. The Rams could not get off the field on defense. And the Rams lost Cooper Kupp with a foot injury on top of the loss of Puka Nacua for 7 weeks, re-injuring his knee a week ago. Rams are in a world of hurt defensively. Raider Nation. Oh, do you think a few people want to take a shot at me right now? The Raiders won in Baltimore. I didn't think they had a chance of winning in Baltimore. Hell, you didn't think they had a chance. I don't think a hell of a lot of Raider Nation fans who sobered up thought they had a chance. They won. They changed their playbook. Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, took a lot of heat for play calling, whom he used, whom he did not get the ball to in the loss to the Chargers. They changed their scheme. Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers combined to catch 18 balls for 208 yards in Baltimore.
Right on.
They gave up trying to run the bleeping football. Now, I will say this, the defense played really hard. They targeted Lamar Jackson, would not let him break containment, made him stay in the pocket, made him throw. Jackson wound up finishing for 247, but it was a real scuffle. And they survived Gardner Minshew. At the beginning of the game, Minshew's line had touchdown, interception, fumble, 3 sacks in the first couple of possessions. I thought, this is going to be a nightmare. But they started to distribute it to the big money wide receiver and the number 1 draft pick tight end, and whole thing's changed. It's amazing the Raiders didn't do it the first weekend of the season when their defense played so well against Justin Herbert. Third game. Now, please explain to me Dallas Cowboy football. Please explain to me how New Orleans goes into Jerry's world and puts 44 points on the board against the Dallas Cowboys. Derek Carr throws for 242, couple of touchdowns. Alvin Kamara, 115 yards rushing. He scored 3 times. Touchdown passes of 57 and 70. They absolutely torched the Cowboys secondary. What a stunning setback it was for Dallas at home to New Orleans. New Orleans, whose coach Dennis Allen's on the hot seat. New Orleans, which has scored 91 points now in its first 2 games. First one, though, was against Carolina. That's just absolutely amazing. Tampa Bay wins in Detroit. I didn't see this coming. Detroit really plays with its hair on fire at home at Ford Field. Baker Mayfield goes for $185 and a touchdown. Chris Godwin, the Penn State receiver, caught 7 for 111. The Tampa Bay defense, 2 picks. Even though they allowed Amor St. Brown, the wide receiver, to catch 11 for 117, Tampa Bay picked off Jared Goff a couple of times, and that was the difference in the game. The Bucs won in Detroit. That's an upset. San Francisco. Your 49ers lose in Minnesota. Justin Jefferson, 97-yard touchdown catch and run. Sam Darnold throws for 268 and doesn't turn it over. What a wasted performance. Brock Purdy went for 319. The young running back Jordan Mason ran for 100. Debo had 8 catches for 100 yards. And the 49ers lost in Minnesota. Oh, by the way, Brandon Ayuk, thank you for the holdout. Thank you for not being in game condition and shape. He's contributed virtually nothing the first 2 weeks of the season. Niners lose Minnesota. Kansas City, hell of a game. 6 lead changes. Finally put away Cincinnati and their young defense on the final play of the game on a Butker field goal. It was a shootout. Mahomes Joe Burrow has no fear of anything at Arrowhead Stadium. He just plays unconscious. Cincinnati's defense had 3 takeaways in the game, but young defense. Young defense commits mistakes. They committed 8 critical penalties in the game. Kansas City gets the win, 6 lead changes. That was pretty cool back and forth, but they pay a price. Isaac Pacheco, tough guy running back, may have a fractured ankle. Could be gone. So suddenly Kansas City's, they got some depth problems at wide receiver, and now they don't have their heavy-duty tough guy running back. Chargers win in Carolina. Best free agent pickup maybe in Charger history, at least 2 weeks into the season, J.K. Dobbins, 131 yards rushing. He had 4 double-digit runs, including runs of 43 and 61 yards during the course of the day. Bolts had 223 yards rushing, 353 yards in total offense, and Bryce Young looks lost. What a shame, because no matter what he's trying to do, he doesn't have enough weapons around him in the Carolina offense. He's 2-16 as a starting quarterback in the league. He's panic-stricken. His footwork is terrible. They don't have a lot of wide receivers. There's just not a lot there, and it's too bad because they're wasting what looks like a pretty gritty defense. So Carolina, they might be 2-15 this season on top of what happened last season to Bryce Young. Not very good. So, John, those are the games that I pulled off the tape that I watched, paid attention to. Go ahead, make a comment or two.
A comment or two. Well, first of all, the Raiders, man, going into Baltimore, that's huge. That's a big, big deal.
Oh, now you're jumping on the freaking bandwagon.
Well, I'm still a Raiders guy, man. This was my team back in the 70s when I was growing up as a little kid. And, all the crap that Minshew has been getting, including from the two of us, questioning his ability. What a wonderful thing for him to go in there and be so successful. So I think that's fantastic. The mystique is rolling. It's coming back. The Niners losing in Minnesota, I was shocked by that, just like I was shocked by the Rams losing to Arizona. They were both beatdowns. But did you see the replay on that 97-yard Justin Jefferson touchdown and what the referee did running alongside them through that whole play? It was unbelievable. The referee was just as fast as the receivers.
Keeping up to him.
He was. It was incredible. Chargers, you got to feel good about them. But, yeah, Bryce Young is just a mess out there. And it was interesting, like you say, the footwork, the announcers, they were talking about how he was always on his toes. He wasn't getting his heels planted, so he didn't have enough leverage to make that throw. That was interesting analysis.
Oh, what a disaster they are. And this is the prime example of, yeah, it's great to be a high first-round draft pick quarterback, but if you wind up going to a place like 3 Mile Island, what chance do you have to succeed? And Carolina is the 3 Mile Island right now in the National Football. What a disaster.
And he's so little, too. You know?
He's slight.
Yeah.
But they're not going to fix it. They're going to need another draft. They need another draft of linemen. They need another draft of skill people to put around them. Not a good story. So you're an NFL fan. Fans Forum chat box is open. Jump in right now. Get into the rotation. Agree with what we say. Disagree with what we say. Bring it, dude. We want to hear what you've got to say on our podcast. And I swear to you, if this guy shows up next week wearing a Raider shirt, he might be doing the podcast by himself, and I don't think you want to follow if that happens. Don't wear a Raider shirt.
Okay, I won't.
Okay. Hey, we get to halftime. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. I use them for doors and windows. I was awed at what a difference it made to my house. John Riley's used them in a lot of different rooms here in his castle and in his studio. What do you like most about DIXIELINE?
What's cool about them is if to do decking, they've got all the great redwood lumber for decking, but they've got all those composite decking that will last like 50-year warranties on some of these things by manufacturers like Trex and Timber Tech and Fiberon. Great selection. If you got to redo your deck in your backyard, go talk to the people at DIXIELINE Lumber.
In-house, on the job, or out by the pool. Think about these people. They've got the materials. They've got the experience. They've got the reputation. DIXIELINE Lumber. And a couple of business notes here before we go to the second half of this Monday bonus podcast. X marks the spot. You're on social media. I want you to do me a favor. We're pushing to try to get over 10,000 followers on our Twitter All-Star team. I put a lot of stuff up on X on a day in, day out, nighttime basis. Join my team. Just go to Hacksaw1090 at Hacksaw1090. Register, join my team. You like sports? You should check my website. I write on it every day. It's there first thing in the morning. It's LeeHacksawHamilton.com. We cover in depth the pennant races, all things NFL, college football, NBA camps are about to open, all the latest in the National Hockey League, whether it's the PGA Tour, whether it's auto racing, NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar. You want to know about it? We got it on the website. I give you stuff that nobody else does. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Want you to share. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe, you will get alerts every time we put stuff up on the YouTube channel, and I promise you I won't allow the Raider fan to put stuff up at 2:30 in the morning so you won't get ding, ding, ding while you're asleep. But follow us and tell everybody what we're doing Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. And, of course, Fans Forum. When we're done, John, just introduce all the new people that have joined us, how they get involved in this podcast.
Okay, so if you're a new person, you want to get involved in the podcast, and you have a question for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, the hardest working man in sports journalism who came...
Or the Raider fan coming out of the closet. Go ahead.
So you got a question, just type it in the live chat, Facebook, X, or YouTube. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Fans Forum comes up right at the end of this podcast. Okay, John, we go to the second half. The only word I can use to describe what we're going to talk about is I saw it live and my heart sank, and the first words out of my mouth were, oh no. We're talking about Tua Tagovailoa, concussion, Thursday night football, fluke injury, but he got hurt on a mad scramble. You know, and people immediately say, why the hell don't you slide? He's scrambling out of trouble trying to get the first down marker, and he went head first. He did not get speared, but he went head first into a cornerback who was about to make the tackle, and he hit the cornerback's shoulder pads. And you got the cornerback going full force to make the tackle. Tua hit him in the shoulder pads. His neck snapped, and he went down. And the scariest thing to see is right as he went down, you could tell that he either injured a neck or had a head injury because his hand went up in the air and was doing this. And that had happened before, a couple of years ago when he got hurt. And it scared the daylights out of me. This is where we are with Tua as of Monday afternoon. He's now had 3 concussions in 24 months. He's had 5 head injuries in the National Football League. He's had a total of 13 major injuries since he played at the University of Alabama. And, you know, after he had the back-to-back concussions 2 years ago in 2022, he went through a real different learning curve in which they really taught him hard about staying in the pocket. And if you have to scramble, go out of bounds or go feet first. But in this case, John, I just think it's the instinct of the player took over. And he's trying to get to the first down marker, and he dives rather than go feet first, which probably would not have gotten the first down. But that's just the instinct of the player competing to forget about what he was taught over the last calendar year and do it. It's really scary. Mike McDaniels, the head coach, very upset. He's got a good relationship with Tua intellectually, in addition to football. Very upset at the media, almost chastising the media. Don't ask me about his future. Don't ask me about whether he should retire. This is his decision. It's his life, and we need the input from the neurologist and from the NFL doctors, and then follow the protocol. But don't bring that up. He got really upset. And then he got furious the next day when Antonio Pierce, the Raiders' mouthy coach, said he should retire. And then he got upset when the head coach down in Jacksonville, Doug Peterson, said if it were my quarterback, I would tell him to retire. And then he got upset when Shannon Sharpe went on ESPN and says there's more to life than just football on Sundays. And other players since then have come public and said family first, not football. So everybody's got an opinion about Tua. But it flashed me back to what happened when I was the voice of the Chargers. Got to know Stan Humphries really well. Humphries, of course, led the Chargers to the Super Bowl. Stan had a really good short career of productivity after coming over from the Redskins as a Bobby Beathard acquisition. For all the things that he accomplished in the course of his career, it took one snap, one hit to end his career. We're in Cincinnati, 2 years removed from the Super Bowl, and the team was starting to rebuild. They lost all their offensive linemen because of knee injuries. Stan was hanging in the pocket. He was one tough hombre. He'd trade a shot in the pocket for a shot. to make plays down the field. He took a shot in Cincinnati. Raynard Wilson, linebacker pass rushing specialist, ran right over him. Stan went backwards, cracked his head on the turf. It wasn't that Wilson hit him helmet to helmet. It was just boom. He steamrolled him. Stan never recovered. He had headaches. He had problems with his eyes. He could not handle light. He had some memory loss along the way. And at that point, at the end of that season, he said, I can no longer play because I can no longer function. And that was from one hit. He had never, ever had a concussion before. And that flashed back after I saw Tua go down neck first into the back of the turf and saw that arm shoot up as if he was crippled and paralyzed. I thought of Stan Humphries. I'm not going to say what the young man should do, but when you've had these recurring issues, in essence, you become concussion prone. It's easier to get hurt the second time, easier to have it happen a third time, and we know quarterbacks are going to get hit. And we know that some may be a violent act, some might be unintentional, some might be just bad luck going down. You hit a player's knee, or in this case, you hit a shoulder, or you get spun around and you hit your head at the wrong angle on hard turf. I don't know what he's going to do, but I think his career is really in jeopardy because he's become concussion prone. That's my impression, what I saw, how I reacted to it, how bad I feel, because he's a pretty good young football player. John Riley's perspective.
Yeah, you hate to see this. I mean, it was a really sad story. To your point about when you have one, the second one is easier to get. He got hit, but it wasn't like a destructive hit. It just seems like he's more apt to get concussions now. So a medium-sized hit to him is like a big one. And so you took it. It's weird how everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. He should retire. He should do this. You should do that. I agree with you. Let him make his own decision. It's his life, his career, and it's possible that he may love football so much that he might want to still continue to play, even though he knows he's at risk. Because some guys are like that. I mean, their whole identity is wrapped up into the sport. He'll make the decision on what's best for him. He'll get good advice from medical people, from family, from coaches. But we just got to let it play out. And I love his coach. The coach is handling it perfectly with the media.
I would assume that this is probably a 6 to 8 week thing for evaluation and recovery.
Yeah.
And there'll be all types of protocol and tests that he will have to go through and pass. Not only is it the neurologists that will give them the scouting report about severity of concussion, the ability to come back from this concussion, then he's got to go through the NFL team doctors' protocols at the league office level as to whether or not they recommend he should be allowed. And then the Dolphins people will handle it as a third tier of information. But it was a fluke injury. And the weirdest part, the guy that made the tackle is Damar Hamlin, the one that nearly died on the football field from the heart attack 2 years ago in Buffalo. Just absolutely amazing story.
Coincidence there.
Yeah, very strange. So if you got an opinion on Tua, what should he do? You got an opinion about the league? See, I don't think, because the game is so big and so fast and so physical and so strange, I don't think you can do that. Now, if he had been wearing the Guardian cap, would the blow to the head have been a little bit different, because a Guardian cap would have diffused the power of the back of his head hitting the turf? Might have. Is this a prime example? I was told there's only 4 guys in the league that are wearing Guardian caps in the regular season. 4 guys.
Just 4, because it doesn't look cool, probably. But I would imagine that the hit that he took, even if he was wearing the Guardian cap, I don't think it probably would have made much difference, because all I can picture is somebody's brain sort of rattling around inside the skull. And if you're already bruised and you've got other problems going on in there, you could have extra padding, but that's not going to resist the jostling of your brain inside the bone.
Except, though, that the Guardian cap is thick, and the Guardian cap would have diffused the force of the head.
Okay, maybe a little, yeah.
So, something to consider down the road. If you're an NFL fan, you saw it, a pretty scary hit. Join us in Fans Forum. We'd like to hear what you have to say. Next topic on the table, staying on the football page.
College football and UCLA and San Diego State. This was a rough weekend. Tough weekend for
the Aztecs. They open and they struggle for a half. Here's what I think. We're 3 games into the season. San Diego State has played 2 quarters of really good offensive football. That was the second half against Texas A&M Commerce. That's it. They got shut out by Oregon State, and they got stomped by the Cal Golden Bears. They're all, in addition to losing 2 games by blowout nature, they lost the starting quarterback, Danny O'Neal. The worst part of Aztec football right now, a little bit overscheduled. I'm not pushing any panic button. I'm not going to be critical of Sean Lewis. Look who you played. You played 2 Pac-12 teams with 2 green quarterbacks. Both of them have never played before. It's going to be a tough learning curve. Once they get through this bye week, this week comes at the right time. This bye week for San Diego State, they fix the offensive line problems, and it gives them another week to get Danny O'Neal, the starting quarterback, totally healthy to get him back on the field, because a week from now they go to Central Michigan, and then after that, then they play everybody in the Mountain West. So they'll be playing their own people. They won't be playing up here. Offensive line. 15 penalties for this team in this game, most of them on the offensive line. 39 penalties in 3 Saturdays of football. It is really hard to believe. Defense, as hard as they played against Oregon State, they played that hard against Cal, but they wore out. They're on the field way too much. Gave up 473 yards. I thought Javance Johnson, playing his first game ever at college football level, he struggled, but man, there's a lot of athleticism in that kid. He was 13 for 29 for 156 yards. So Aztecs take a deep breath. They got to fix what's wrong in the offensive front with all these penalties. Sean Lewis must wake up in the middle of the night screaming about 3rd and 11, 3rd and 17. He had one. He was 3rd and 30. Yeah, where in a playbook have you got to play for 3rd and 30?
You don't.
Yeah, so that's where we are. UCLA. Is it too early to say maybe they hired the wrong guy as head coach, Deshaun Foster? They have not looked competitive at all. His game management has looked really weak. You know, they won the first week of the season against Hawaii, which isn't very good. And then they got smoked at home at the Rose Bowl by Indiana and their transfer quarterback, Curtis Rourke. By the way, Ohio University Bobcat.
Hey.
He threw for 307 and 4 touchdowns for IU. Ethan Gerbers, quarterback, UCLA. UCLA starting quarterback, big-time football, Big Ten, throws for 137 and scuffling. They got outgained 430 to 208 at home in front of their own fans. So I pose this question. Is the wrong coach that they hired? Because this does not look good at all. Oregon. I mean, they just buried Oregon State. Item 1. This is the rivalry game. This is the game that was always played the last game of the season. Thanksgiving weekend in the rain, the cold, the mud back in the day. Oregon State Civil War.
Yeah.
Been played since the 1890s. Why the hell is it on the 3rd weekend of the season? Civil War game, Oregon makes a statement. Dan Lanning, all he wants to do is win. He doesn't give a crap who they beat or how much they beat him by. He just wanted to guarantee that Oregon State will never recruit a kid in the state of Oregon. They beat him 49-14, and they mashed him. Dylan Gabriel was pretty impressive, throwing the ball deep for the first time this season. By the way, the other rivalry game up there is called the Apple Cup. Washington State. That sucker is the last game in November. It should be played the 3rd weekend of the season. Washington State ambushes the Washington Huskies. 24-19, rebuilding year at the UW. Johnny Mateer, we're going to see him down here in a couple weeks when Washington State comes to play San Diego State. He goes for 307 all-purpose yards in the Apple Cup win for the Cougars. He's had 3 straight really impressive games for Washington State. And then we got the next storyline here is on the Pac-12 conference. I've been told that there are a lot of pressure points on the Pac-12 to take the next step almost immediately to add 2 more after having added the 4 from the Mountain West. They want to get this to 8 so they can go to the networks and say, this is who you're going to televise. This is the kind of money we want for who is going to be in our conference. I've been told there's a lot of pressure on the Pac-12 to reconsider and look at Air Force. Bring them in because that's a national brand and that's an identity school with class and dignity. And it's in essence, it's not only just the Denver TV market, it's everybody who's ever wore the blue representing the Air Force as a commissioned officer or in the service. And there'll be a lot of eyeballs attached to anything related to Air Force football. And if Air Force is in the Pac-12 as the 7th member, I don't know where they're going to go get the 8th. Please don't tell me Memphis State. Don't tell me Tulane. That's ridiculous. Texas San Antonio, last I checked, was getting beat 57-6. Nah. So I don't know where they're going to go get an 8th one. Although I floated the idea after you floated the idea that, okay, get 7, and then go to the NCAA and say, we have offered Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and USF to come in as basketball members, so therefore we will have an even stronger brand nationally in basketball to go with football. Give us a waiver. Let us just compete for 7 for college football playoffs. And then, of course, they're holding their breath because then we'll wait and see what transpires with Cal and Stanford, which I both think made terrible mistakes. And if UCLA wakes up in the middle of the night and says, my God, this decision to go to the Big Ten was a disaster, now UCLA comes back. So I'm just throwing a lot of ideas out there. I think the Air Force thing has a lot of credibility. And then I think Cal, Stanford, and maybe UCLA, that'd give them much more credibility rather than be Mountain West 2.0. Credibility be something like the Pac-12. And John Riley says,
yeah, Air Force would be more credible, but they're still a minor league kind of a sports organization. And to your point, yeah, Tulane and Memphis and all these other teams that are not sexy at all. But when you pare it all down, maybe Air Force is the one. And at least they're in one of the 2 time zones. You don't need to go to the central time zone.
With a TV market and a national following.
And but they're not going to be competitive. That's the problem. I remember the whole thing about Air Force is that they never had a good basketball team because the players weren't tall enough to fit in the cockpits. Is that a true story?
Yes.
Okay. So anyways, just to go back and comment on some of these other teams, that Aztec game was a freaking disaster, a big hot mess. I mean, I was watching that. I was rooting for the guys. The penalties were just mind-boggling. But the question I have is when we started, talking about the Aztecs, when Sean Lewis came into town, we weren't sure who the QB was going to be, but I had assumed that A.J. Duffy was going to be competitive for the number 1. Why isn't he playing?
I concur with you wholeheartedly, except O'Neal is much more athletic than Duffy. That's how he won it. O'Neal has responded really well to pressure, accuracy, etc. Maybe they're not seeing that from Duffy in practice. And then Johnson comes out of Oakland, and the kid is tall. He's 6'4". He's wiry. He can run and move the pocket. He's much more athletic than even Danny O'Neal is. So I was kind of impressed considering he was under siege. And I asked Sean Lewis today, I said, what's it like to coach 2 green quarterbacks? Because neither one of these kids have played at this level and have kind of hung in there and they have competed. But, they're forever wiping out big gains because of holding, procedure. It's nonstop stuff. And every time I turn around, Sean Lewis is in his playbook. On the back of the playbook, last page, there's no page there for 3rd and 17 or 3rd and 30.
That was just brutal to watch those guys. But, I was still, my heart's in it. I mean, I understand how difficult it is for them. Javance Johnson, he did show, but it was interesting. His passing mechanics are almost sort of sidearm. It was a little bit odd. The UCLA thing was interesting to me because Indiana, you usually think of as at the bottom half of the Big Ten. And boy, they just put a whooping on UCLA. So
where does that put UCLA as it relates to the Big Ten?
That's what I'm thinking. They may go 0-for through the whole Big Ten. And the Oregon game, Dylan Gabriel, I mean, I still, not just because he's a lefty, but he has the body of a Steve Young. I mean, if you took away the Oregon or the Oklahoma gear and replaced it with 49er number 8, he's got the same body type on top of being a lefty, the same scrambling ability as Steve Young. I think it's a second coming.
He doesn't run like Steve Young ran, no.
Yeah, but he still runs well, but not as well.
He doesn't run for gains. He runs to move the pockets. I've been kind of impressed with him. Okay, you're a college football fan. Hey, you need to cycle us in and get into the chat box. Give us your opinion. Last topic on the table. This is going to be fun to follow.
Yeah, Team USA, this new coach, is he already making waves?
Mauricio Pochettino takes over. We know about his track record in Europe and the English Premier League. We know what he did with Paris Saint-Germain. He gets signed to a $6 million a year contract. Press conference last Friday. First meeting with his team on Saturday. He had a lot to say. Mauricio told the players, I am challenging you to achieve what the U.S. women have achieved. U.S. women have won 4 World Cups and an Olympic gold medal. He says, I want you to believe that under my leadership, with the 3 coaches I'm bringing in who were with me in Europe, you will win. And then he told them, we will compete. And competing is different than just playing the game. That's in-your-face, fast-tempo, physical football. And he says, I look at this roster. This is a good generation of players in the Americas that we have inherited. So really positive, but flashing his credential of what he accomplished at Hotspur, at Chelsea, and at Paris Saint-Germain. And the players, led by Christian Pulisic, know his track record with young guys. And what has he got on that roster?
Lots of young guys.
Gio Reyna.
Oh, yeah.
Balogun.
Yeah.
He's got a ton of young guys who he will coach up. So this is fascinating going forward. And now they'll go to their workouts. They have workout windows where the players come back on loan from England or Italy or Spain, wherever they are, or Mexico, and they'll practice together. They'll play a couple friendlies. So he'll have access to them for small windows of time to implement the system, practice, they'll play a couple friendlies. So this will be fun going forward. It got to be a soccer fan out there. I mean, when the whole Berhalter thing was going on, we got overwhelmed with people in fans forum that had opinions about soccer. What do you think about Mauricio as the head coach of Team USA? What do you think?
I'm excited about this because I think he could make a difference. I remember for the longest time, we always said, oh, the USA isn't very good in soccer internationally because all of our top athletes play basketball and football and everything else. But, you know, you don't need to be that big of a guy to be a really good soccer player.
And they're getting a skill because a whole bunch of these guys are gone to play abroad and they're practicing and playing in those leagues, and they're coming back here, for that window to work out and learn and then wear the colors and play.
Yeah, so I think to that point, I think there's a lot of highly skilled, athletic soccer players in America, and we've kind of been building and building, but then the coaching never seemed to kind of get us to that next level. So this could be an inflection point on the curve.
Track record here, this guy and what he's accomplished, pretty impressive. And can you imagine Raider 49er fan who got deported and wound up here in San Diego speaking as if he knows all about soccer? This is kind of amazing what this guy's bringing to the podcast.
Hey, back in the day, I worked at the San Diego Sports Arena when the San Diego Sockers were playing back in the day, selling popcorn up and down the aisles. That was a lot of fun. Soccer is a great sport, and I would love to see America more widely embrace it.
I broadcast in the Sports Arena. You were probably walking around yelling, popcorn. I did the Cleveland Force indoor soccer games. We played here against the San Diego Sockers, and I think it was the era of Stevie Zungel.
Yes.
And great
Julie V.
Oh, yeah, that was phenomenal. It was unique. And that was when they were drawing really big crowds.
Oh, they would sell it out.
Yeah, not 1,200, but big crowds.
Yeah, it was rowdy. I mean, it was a great time, and they put on a good show. Cleveland Force, that was you.
That was me.
All right, hacksaw spotting in the early 80s in San Diego.
Yeah, we had a center, or I think it was called a midfielder at that point, indoors, from Argentina. And he had this huge, long last name. Good guy. His name was Ruben Astigarraga.
Oh, wow.
And that's tough doing a broadcast, so I just started calling him Ruben 11 letters. And everybody knew who he was. He was really good. He was 6'3". He could run like hell. And we had a Central African forward. I think his last name was Tutu. Short guy, built like a fire hydrant, and he could run. It was like the indoor game was made for his game. And he'd come up the pitch, the floor, and he'd bounce it off the sideboards, and it'd dart, take the rebound off the sideboards, walk in and score on the goalkeeper. I've never seen anything like it. And he kept doing it. And the defenders just had no clue what the hell he was doing. And I think his nickname was Baby. I think it might have been Mohammed Baby Tattoo. And That's awesome. He would bring it up the side. Defender would come to get him at the line. Mm-hmm. He'd bounce it off the glass or bounce it off the board, ricochet around the defender, walk right into the score. It's just the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
That reminds me of Jamal Franklin on the Aztecs throwing the ball off the backboard, getting the rebound, and then making the shot. Yeah.
Hey, time for Fans Forum. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects, just think about these people because they got the material. If you're looking for ideas, these can be your best friends, a.k.a. your consultant at DIXIELINE. John, where do you want to go?
Let's talk some Dodgers here with Swellin' Sausage. He goes, hello from Lakeside Fortress in the Eastern Sierra. Dodgers Glasnow left Dodgers, and Roberts have no idea where he is. He's done for the year.
Yeah, he really is. And there's a lot of second guessing going on. I knew this guy had elbow problems with the Pirates multiple times. Tampa Bay, he had the same thing flare. And yet the Dodgers gave him this mega contract, hoping he would hold up. And he pitched really well for the first third of the season. Then he started to give ground, and then he had physical woes. It's tough. There's no doubt he's the ace of somebody's staff. The thing is, do you get a whole season out of him? Do you get 30 starts out of him? And that's not the case. So, in Swell in all probability, he is done for this season. And I just don't know where they're going to go to get trustworthy starting pitching once you get beyond Flaherty. And you have to hold your breath with Yamamoto. Now, he pitched 4 good innings in the first game coming off the long stretch on the DL. But you don't know what you're going to get from him. And there's talk that if Kershaw pitches, and he has yet to throw off the full mound, he's throwing flat ground, but that's different planning your foot to throw because you got the toe injury, the bone spur. That's different than throwing off a mound as you land, etc. If Kershaw comes back, they're talking about him and Ohtani maybe being 1-inning guys out of the bullpen. Please tell me, if you're a Dodger fan, where's the rest of the starting pitching going to come from? Because Buehler is here, and then he's here. Mm-hmm. You never know from start to start what you're going to get. We saw vintage Buehler on Sunday, but prior to that, Walker Buehler got lit up. Dodgers, I think, have got enormous pitching problems.
Well, remember at the beginning of the season, we thought they had too many pitchers. Sure. And so imagine if they had the depth of an average organization in MLB, they would be toast right now. So they're still putting these guys together. But the Glasnow deal, didn't they trade for him from Tampa and then sign him when he got here? Because wasn't he in the Pepio deal there with Tampa and 3 other guys?
They gave him $136 million as a part of an extension.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a ballsy move, but, thank God they've got, what is it, Gavin? Is it Gavin Stone?
He's on the deal, though. He's got a shoulder.
But they have that depth, so if they didn't have those young guys to go with the Yamamotos and the Glasnows and the Buehlers and the Kershaws, et cetera.
But there's no guarantee Stone's going to be ready for postseason.
Well, yeah, I know. It's like roadkill across this road. It's just awful. I don't know how they're surviving.
Okay, next question. Thanks for the input.
Okay, Swellin' Sausage. Okay, let's go to Javi. He says, Brewers are looking like the D-backs did last year. Going to be a dangerous team.
Tell you what, for them to hang as tough as they have almost 90 wins. I think they're at 86 now with 2 weeks to go. For them to do that without Christian Yelich for most of the season, that's amazing. And for them to do that, having let Corbin Burns go in the trade with the Orioles and having no Brandon Woodruff, I mean, it's hard to ascertain how the hell they're doing this. I mean, Freddie Peralta is the anchor of their rotation, and I got a bunch of young kids. It's just amazing with the job that Pat Murphy has done in the face of this type of adversity. Now, that being said, once playoffs begin, you're not playing the Pirates or the Rockies or the White Sox, so maybe it's all going to catch up to them. But no, Milwaukee's had a really just amazing season. Milwaukee's got more wins than the Yankees, and they're $280 million payroll. It's amazing.
It is. I've been trying to figure this out for a while. I mean, Jackson Chourio has really turned it on in the second half.
And Willie Adames has had a phenomenal bounce-back season.
And always thought about Adames is that he is batting often cleanup for the Brewers, which always strikes me. He doesn't seem like a cleanup hitter. But, when I think of the Brewers, I always think of Harvey's Wallbangers. Remember those guys?
Goran Thomas.
And the Cecil Cooper, I think, was there. there. That was Yount and Molitor. Those were good days.
Harvey Keene's guys.
Yeah.
Okay, Milwaukee, thank you for the input.
Okay, let's go here to Chris. He goes, Monty bleeping Montezuma, now in the Pac-12 or whatever it's going to be called. Memo to Aztecs and the rest of the conference. Do not let UCLA come crawling back. You do not need Deshaun Foster and his brutally incompetent program dragging to the new Pac down. Indiana steamrolled the hapless and unprepared little Bruins on Saturday.
They got problems, and I'll tell you what. If this turns into a disaster, that athletic director might be in trouble. You know, Martin Jarmond is the one that I think was responsible for Chip Kelly, which means he gave Kelly everything he wanted. Look how that worked out, which means Martin is also responsible for the massive debt in the UCLA athletic department. I mean, they've got problem stacked upon problem stacked upon problems. And if this turns out to be a 2-11 football season, that's at your front door. You're the one that hired this guy. You know, I still would have thought UCLA brand would have been a marquee job, and you took a guy who has never been a coordinator, much less a head coach anywhere, and you gave him the head coaching job. And then Foster has really struggled with game management. It's obvious that there's X's and O's problems. There's roster problems. Even though he's got the NFL brand of Eric Bieniemy as his right-hand guy, they're not competitive. And they got slugged by a middle-of-the-road Indiana Hoosier football team from the Big Ten. What the hell's going to happen? They got to play LSU. They got to play Michigan. They're going on the road in the Big Ten.
They're going to get killed.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this pile is going to wind up at the front door of that athletic director. This might cost him his job.
Yeah, it's looking bad. I mean, for the longest time, you'd always think of UCLA as like one of the pillars of the Pac-12.
Sure.
You know, and it wasn't just because of John Wooden in basketball. The football program was great, and you knew they had so many other sports programs that are all very successful. And to see it come down to this, I mean, it's almost like a Mountain West team now, you know, the way they're playing. What was the rationale for Foster? Was it just because he was an alum and they wanted to, have a feel-good story?
Contacts. He knew a lot of people, and he had been a viable running back coach in the National Football League. He had a nice little career in the pros after a brilliant career with the Bruins. But at the end of the day, not a lot of experience there. And obviously his roster has been depleted, and they got a late start on recruiting. This doesn't look good to me. I watched the UCLA game because I was enamored. I wanted to see Indiana's quarterback, Curtis Work, because he played at Ohio U where I went, and his brother had preceded him and set all the passing records. This kid started 3 years with the Ohio Bobcats and did really well and erased a bunch of the passing records his brother had established. So I just wanted to see how he was doing, and I looked up. He's throwing touchdown passes, and all of a sudden, man, it was 40 to 13. I said, wow.
Yeah.
So I thought he'd be okay in the Big Ten because that is a step up from the Mid-American, but I never thought UCLA would be down here.
It makes you wonder also with Eric Bieniemy, the way he's such a forceful coach, and he's in your face. I wonder how that works with the college teams as opposed to the pros.
Well, but he coached in college before he went back to the NFL. Actually, when he left the NFL, he went back to college. A lot of people don't know this. You know, you make all this money in the NFL. You live a unique lifestyle. He gave all that up to go back to finish his degree. You know, he's from the inner city here in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. He went back and got his degree so he could become a graduate assistant. Nice. I think it was on Bill McCartney's staff at CU, and they were really good.
Yeah.
So then he became a full-time assistant, and then he moved around, and then he wound up going to the NFL where he had a tremendous run under Andy Reid. So maybe he's going to wind up being the head coach. I don't know. This is a bad set of circumstances if we start to connect the dots as to where UCLA is in terms of leadership and in terms of roster.
Remember Chris Berman? He would go, Eric's sleeping with Bieniemy. Remember that? He always had a nickname for everybody. I want UCLA to be competitive. I do, but I don't think this is their year.
Oh, I think it's going to be a hard year. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Gary. He goes, Hacksaw, I want to hear the words in your voice. The Padres are not a 500 team. We are getting hot at the right time. I think this team is feeling it. Go Pods.
Oh, the Friars are on a roll. You know, and people say, oh, now you're jumping on the damn bandwagon. Well, when we were talking Padre baseball first half of the season, same old from a year ago. The chronic word was underachiever. I didn't like anything that I was seeing that first half of the season. I mean, your Padres lost to Miami. Your Padres got killed in multiple series by the Colorado Rocks. You know, they were losing all these last-place teams, and then the chemistry changed. And then they made the deadline deals that got that bullpen stronger. And then the free agent acquisition showed up. And, you know, where would they be without the timely hits of Peralta and Donovan Solano? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that kind of came in, and suddenly they got good. And the big money guys are playing really big-time baseball right now. Whether one night that's Tatis, the next night it could be Manny, it could be anybody. So that this team has come together. And tell you what, we're going to the playoffs, and I don't know whether they finish second, whether they're the top team in the wild card. I don't know whether they can actually catch the collapsing Dodgers. They're dangerous. They're going to be a dangerous team, I think, in postseason. And if they can get a bunch of games at Petco Park, which has become an insane asylum down there, that'd be cool. That would really be cool.
Isn't it interesting when you watch the team, when they're going through their bad stretches and Manny comes up, you know it's not going to work out. You know he's going to swing and miss down and away. But when they're hot like this and Manny comes up, you think he can do no wrong, and he typically will get that big hit. So the vibe is just so different. I mean, it makes you wonder, was it Bob Melvin or Juan Soto? I tend to think Soto might have been a cancer.
I think Soto and Hader were real detriments in the clubhouse. And now it's Manny's clubhouse, although Manny's not real vocal, you know. But at the end of the day, this combination, this roster that AJ has finally put in place, at this point in their lives, in their careers, this thing really works. Now, who knows, a year from now, it'll be the same. Players are never the same from year to year. But this moment, as we're in mid-September with 2 weeks to go, I wouldn't want to play him in postseason because this team has really come together.
You know who I'm worried about is Profar. You ever notice not only was he getting hit all the time, but he's fouling pitches off his foot, off his knee. The guy is just like a demolition car. So I'm just hoping he can make it through this season and be productive in the playoffs.
He's tailed a bunch in the last month. Jackson Merrill's kind of cooled down a little bit. It's not to say they can't come back, though. But right now they got so many guys that they can carry them. And the role players, they can be dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to get Solano's not going to get a hit every time up, but Solano can have stretches where boom. And Peralta took him half a season to get a stroke back because he was coming off surgery. Now he's a dangerous veteran who will occasionally pop one or put the ball in play, etc. So it's going to be fun.
Do you like Merrill batting 5 right now?
Doesn't matter. He's going to get his pitches. He's going to hit. I don't have a problem with that. Doesn't matter to me.
I think it's all good.
Good, dude.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for the call, Garrett.
Okay, let's go here to T. Will. He says, get upset all you want. The player's health should come first.
He's making reference, I would assume, to Tua in Miami. I'm not upset. I'm just concerned from having experienced concussions to a guy that I really liked and I saw what it did to his personal life. I'd really be concerned about that. It does come under Tua to make the final decision because it is his life, it is his career, it is his family that gets impacted. But when you've had 3 in 24 months, you know, the likelihood of reoccurrence happens at a faster pace because you've already been hurt a couple, 3 times. That's got to come into some consideration. I'd be intrigued to see if players started to wear Guardian caps. Because right now, Guardian caps on top of the helmet, I mean, the concussions were down like 70% in preseason games and workouts from the guys that wore Guardian caps. Why would you not try it? I don't care. It looks stupid. If everybody starts to wear it, then nobody looks stupid because everybody's wearing the same thing.
Well, hopefully the players would see this as an opportunity to kind of, send a signal that we all love Tua, and everyone would wear the Guardian cap and make it so it is fashionable for the players to wear. But you are concerned with him. Do you know, is he married? Does he have children?
Yes.
Oh, he does.
Both accounts.
Okay, so he's got some big decisions ahead of him. And then the Miami, by the way, if Tua's not playing, they're not a competitive team.
Well, they're a competitive team if they get the right quarterback, and they just signed a free agent just as we were coming on, Tyler Huntley, who had been a backup in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah, I
and
remember
has
him.
played in spurts, and he's a really competitive guy. They just signed him. They talked to Ryan Tannehill of Tennessee, but Tannehill's a different quarterback. Huntley is more cut in the same fashion of scrambler, make things happen on the run. So Huntley's going to come in. I would assume Huntley probably is going to wind up being the starter, not immediately. Skylar Thompson out of Kansas State is going to be the starter for the next week or so. But Huntley, if Tua is gone for, which I think is going to be 6 to 8 weeks at least, while they run the test and they put him through all this cognitive stuff, Huntley, I bet, winds up playing a fair amount for them if Thompson can't do it.
Yeah, some tough calls there.
Yeah.
One other comment on Tua is I always remember that he was at Alabama with Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
And then Tua won the job, and then Hurts went to Oklahoma.
Exactly.
So, in your opinion, do you think Tua is better than Jalen Hurts even today? Assuming, of course, he's healthy.
That's a good question. They're not quite the same quarterback. Hurts is bigger than Tua. Hurts has come at a much faster pace. Tua had to be brought along because he wasn't a complete quarterback, and he had injuries. He had a lot of injuries at Alabama. He had the fractured hip, and he had a concussion. And he had 13 different injuries at Alabama.
13?
13.
Wow.
Over 3.5 to 4 plus years. So I think Hurts is a star. Tua was emerging as a star, and now he's waylaid for a chunk of time.
Tough go over there. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go to John. And he says, 26 days until the happiest day in North America, the opening of the new NHL season.
That's coming from a Washington Capitals fan. Washington, non-playoff Washington with an aging superstar in Ovechkin. Hockey will be just around the corner. It's going to be fun. Is Edmonton for real? Can Edmonton take the next step? Can Boston, which suddenly got a lot of injuries and looked old at the end, now they're getting the guys who are coming off these surgeries. Will those guys hit the ice on opening night running? Rangers were really good with Shesterkin in goal. Can the Rangers take that next step rather than just be a playoff team? Obviously, be a dominant team. Florida is Florida. Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. A lot of storylines around hockey to talk about, but that floats in right at the end of October.
What are the one-sentence, descriptions now, storylines for the Sharks, the Kings, and the Ducks?
Sharks, massive rebuild. You just can't win with so many young kids, but they've got a lot of young kids, including their number one draft pick who had just come from Boston College, and last year's number one pick that they turned pro and signed, and then they traded for somebody else's unsigned number one pick. But you're building your whole franchise around all these young guys. Can't win that way. Ducks have been running uphill for 3 years with draft picks. Have they won anything? No. It's going to take some more time there. And the Kings are right on the brink. The Kings, they've got huge financial commitments to the Kopitars of the world, Dowdies of the world. The problem with the Kings is they got a lot of mileage now. They got a lot of age guys. And they either have to win and go deep into the playoffs, or they're going to have to blow the thing up because all these the marquee guys are going to be 32, 33, 34. And the roadblock for the LA Kings, as good as they've been the last couple of years, is they can't get beyond the first-round opponent. And the first-round opponent is freaking Edmonton and Connor McDavid. They haven't solved that. So the Kings, it has to win now because suddenly they'll be a much older team with all these cap constrictions. And we start getting 34-year-old guys making $8 million a year who can't do it, you're in trouble.
Did you share a tweet of the Ducks in their new orange uniforms?
Yeah, did you like that?
Yeah.
Orange Country?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought the uniforms were pretty cool. And I like the old, what was it, turquoise and eggplant? Yeah, that is right. It was like a purple and a light blue. Yeah, it was really cool. And I didn't like the black and the orange and the Ducks logo. I like the original Ducks logo. And then great. I mean, hats off to the Ducks and the Gulls people because they did a marketing campaign this summer that says, this is Orange Country, not county, Orange Country. But it was a slap at Artie Moreno and the Angels. They won't say that, but I'll say it. Artie Moreno of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim that nobody goes to see because they're in last place. So the Ducks came up with this is Orange Country, and debuted these new uniforms, which are predominantly orange and white, and they're snazzy. Just, Google it. You'll see the uniforms. They look really, really cool. Now, Do they have a good group of players to put in those new snazzy uniforms? They're awful young.
Snazzy. I haven't heard that word in a long time.
Okay, old school.
Okay, this is a comment about Stan Humphries, I believe, and this is from Surf, Sun, and Sand. He says, I remember that play, the look in his eyes and his what the F am I, or where the F am I, was not good.
Well, when I took him off the field, and I knew he had a concussion, his eyes were like saucers, big, and and that's the first sign this is really bad. And they took him to the hospital, and our flight home from Cincinnati was delayed because we had to wait for him to come from the hospital. He had been released, and he sat up in the front of the plane, and I happened to walk up the aisle. We were not allowed to go up the front of the plane where the coaches were, but he was in the back seat. And he saw me, and he grabbed my arm, and I kind of asked him, I said, "You going to be okay with this?" He says, "Well, I'm in a bad situation right now." But he made a comment to me, and I couldn't believe that he even brought this up. That was the week that we had been informed that we were losing the rights to the Chargers. They were leaving our radio station. And I thought to myself, what a hell of a guy this is. He grabs my arm as I'm walking back away, and he says, "How you doing?"
He was asking about you.
About losing the radio rights.
Right.
And I said, wow, what a hell of a guy. Thinking about me and how I felt considering how badly he looked. And John, he had like 2 black eyes. He looked terrible. And he was asking me how I felt. I thought, what a hell of a guy this guy is. And then I got so pissed later in the season at Kevin Gilbride, who was then the head coach, about to get fired the following year. Gilbride somehow came up in a conversation about Stan, and Gilbride made the comment to me, well, if he wanted it bad enough, he'd be on the field playing. What? I thought to myself, what a piece of crap thing to say about your quarterback who was badly hurt. And we got to the end of the season, the week after the season ended, and Stan announced his retirement because he could not function. And yet this coach is saying that about a starting quarterback. I was floored that he would ever say something like that. And again, we all have different relationships with different players, but for him to say that about that quarterback, and I knew who that quarterback was and how he was hurt, and I knew what he stood for as a man. And so he grabbed me in the aisle of the plane and said, "How you doing?" I said, wow, what a unique individual. Because I wasn't doing real well. I was really upset about what was about to happen to our broadcast crew and happen to our radio station. But that's a long story.
But, no one liked Kevin Gilbride. He was an awful coach, and everyone hated on him. And it's when Stan Humphries came here from the Redskins, Beathard pulled off that trade. He was like a hero. I mean, he came in and saved that team and got him into the playoffs when they went against the Chiefs, I think.
Well, Bobby had come from Washington. Bobby knew everybody on the Washington roster. The Redskins hid Stan Humphries on injured reserve. And they kind of dropped hints, well, he has a blood disorder. And Humphries shook his head and said, no, that's not the case. But anyhow, the Chargers made the deal while the Redskins hid him on injured reserve, and they got him. And he got here. It took him a little while, and tell you what, he was a gamer. And he was our version of the Raiders' Darryl LaMonica, Mad Bomber.
Yeah. And
he would stand in that pocket, and he would take some shots, but he'd get that damn ball out of there down the field. That was special time. And then, what happened, I've told this story before, is the Chargers went to the Super Bowl, and we got destroyed by your guy, Steve Young, who was one of the best of all times, and was one of the best offenses I'd ever seen. And the next year, everybody's of the opinion, well, we'll get back there. Well, you never get back there because your team's never the same. That year after the Super Bowl run, and by the way, this is the 30th anniversary of the Chargers' run to the Super Bowl. It's hard to believe. It's been 30 years. But that year they came back, every one of their starting offensive linemen went down with a knee injury. 5 guys had scopes. Some in the offseason, some got hurt in preseason, some got hurt at the start of the season. The whole offensive line was just not 100%. And then they didn't win, and Stan started to take shots in the following years when he got run over in Cincinnati and really got badly hurt.
Help me on the timeline here, because I remember the 92, they made the playoffs. That's what I meant when they faced the Chiefs in the first round. They went 94, and then the Super Bowl they were in, right?
94 was the Super Bowl season. They played the Super Bowl in January 95.
Correct. Then when did Humphries have this concussion? What year was that?
That would have been the 96 season.
96.
Right in the beginning.
And then Ryan Leaf didn't come around until like 98, right?
Yeah.
So who was the quarterback in the between?
No, you would ask me that. That's a good question.
Was it Flutie?
I think Flutie might have been part of that equation. Bobby Ross had gotten removed, and then they had a myriad of people that showed in there. Mike Riley was there for as head coach, and June Jones was an interim coach, and it was just a disaster. But Flutie was there, and Sean Salisbury was there. Bob Galliano was there. Yeah, Craig Wheelahan was there. It was just a mishmash of guys.
Yeah.
Just wasn't very good.
Yeah, we sure miss Stan Humphries. He's still doesn't he golf, like on one of those celebrity golf tournaments?
He was playing golf. He actually became a girls basketball coach, a high school girls basketball coach outside of Shreveport, and I think he was doing very well. Haven't seen him, haven't talked to him in a while, but I crossed paths with ex-Charger people who were part of his entourage.
Nice.
Okay, a couple more here.
Okay, let's go to 4RXLA. The NL West will come down to the 3-game series in LA next week. Dodgers don't have the pitching to go deep in the playoffs.
It's huge, but of course, as we just ran everybody's got about 10 games to go, and we were running that schedule. The Dodgers are running out of pitchers, but they've got this lead over the Padres, and the question is, Dodgers would have to go on a hell of a binge losing streak, and the Padres would just have to run the table to be able to get to Dodger Stadium in a fight for first place. I guess anything is humanly possible, but that's a little bit of a reach.
So it's 12 games, right?
Yeah.
3.5 games to make up with 12 to go. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on here. Let's go to Mario. And it says, do you guys think the Chargers can win the next 2 games against Pittsburgh and Kansas City?
Pittsburgh. That's going to be a field goal kicking contest because we know already the Steelers just don't move the football very well with Justin Fields. And I'm not sure that Russell Wilson even be ready to play next week. I guess anything is possible. We also know Pittsburgh is going to try to pound the football with Najee Harris. So they'll try to play ball control and keep Herbert off the field. When Herbert has the football, where the hell is T.J. Watt lined up?
Yeah.
Where's Highsmith lined up? Pittsburgh's living off their defense right now. So at the end of the day, I think what we got here is you've got the irresistible force against the immovable object. You got the Chargers' offense, which wants to move the football and pound the football, and you got Pittsburgh's U.S. Steel tough defense, which means it's going to be a field goal kicking contest. There'll probably be some turnovers along the way. I don't know how the hell the Steelers are going to score a touchdown against the Chargers, but I know Herbert's going to have a tough time moving the football because Pittsburgh's defense up front, their front seven just causes such heartburn. They're so tough. And how the hell do you block them all? Because they send guys. It'll be a good game. And after that, you got Kansas City. I think the Bolts can win in Pittsburgh. And that'd be 3-0 versus Mahomes and company. Oh, that'd be a good game, you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we would say the Chargers are for real if they're 3-0 going into that game. But then the Steelers have a good kicker, just like the Chargers have a good
Chris
kicker.
Boswell's really good.
Yeah, because remember he kicked 6 field goals against the Falcons. I remember that.
Only superseded by yesterday when Washington's kicker, who was a street free agent, kicked 7.
7
field goals yesterday for Washington.
Well, how the heck did Dicker, the kicker, miss his point after yesterday?
I don't know whether he wasn't ready or the ball got snapped or the ball wasn't held perfect. Him to miss a point after, he'd never done that before. And then he had a lousy kickoff that didn't even reach the landing zone. And there was a penalty there. They gave the ball out to the 40-yard line. Yeah. But it was Carolina, which couldn't do anything with the field position. And then Dicker came back, and then he started bombing kicks again. And what an acquisition he's turned out to be. I mean, that's a hell of a kicker was on the street that they signed 3 years ago.
Yeah, good for the Chargers. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's go to Rap Album Depot. People forget how fast Steve Young was simply because he was a level below Cunningham and Vick.
Yeah, but he was really good. And he became he was a great running quarterback at BYU, and he was kind of inaccurate. I don't know if that's a left-hander thing. It doesn't bother me. I'm left-handed, and I'm right on with everything I do.
Of course.
But Young was spraying it all over the place, and it just wasn't very consistent. He just got progressively better and better. Of course, he had a lot of time to learn, as the backup to Joe Montana, and then he got his chance. He was a great player. He was a fierce leader, and he walked away from football at the peak of his career because of concussions. Yeah. But that offense with him and Jerry Rice and Johnny Taylor and the 2 tight ends and Ricky Waters at running back, God, they were so explosive and so creative. And I mean, that was for a short period of time, that was a really brilliant offense.
just that whole early 90s era was interesting because this is after Montana, and the Niners had Young, and then Troy Aikman was big. Brett Favre was a young guy, and they were always meeting in the playoffs.
Yep.
I remember.
And Marino was in Miami with the Marx brothers, and you couldn't stop them.
Yeah, they were unbelievable too. Mm-hmm. Steve Young was tremendous, and you're right. The concussions are what took that guy down. But the play I remember with him was against the Vikings, and I don't know if it was a playoff game or a regular season where he ran like 50 yards for a touchdown, stumbling and bumbling. Talking about Greg Berman, that sort of thing. He was amazing, and he's had a decent career on the TV media.
Yeah, no, I think he's done well post career. He got started on it earlier, but dude's a smart guy. I mean, he was represented. He's really close to the super agent of that era, Lee Steinberg, and he just came up with the opinion: it is time to step away because I cannot afford to have more concussions. Aikman's had concussions. That's why Aikman walked away from the game too, and he's been very open about it. And He's been very interactive. Troy Aikman's been very active with the people at Boston University, which kind of run the concussion research program. For all the players who pass away, they were the first one that stepped up and went to the families of the players that committed suicide or died from ALS or dementia and said, would you donate the brain so we can do research? And they're the ones that came up with CTE, the description of CTE. And
interesting.
There was like 113 players that families donated the brains to. 110 of the first 113 all had CTE. So they become the flag bearer of CTE research. It's just amazing what sports medicine has become just because of those people at BU. And Aikman got involved with them, too, to help them.
Remember, you've talked a lot about that movie, Concussion. Was that about BU as well?
A little bit about BU, but it was more about the NFL. If you've never seen the movie Concussion, you have to see it. Will Smith plays the lead research doctor. There's a lot of famous actors in the movie. And the portrayal of what happened to Mike Webster, the legendary Hall of Fame center of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his right tackle, Justin Strelczyk, who were dying at the same time and didn't even know what was happening to them. The movie is phenomenal. I'm sure Netflix, I'm sure you can order it off Amazon. Mm-hmm. There's a book that was written that they made. It was written by two ESPN investigative reporters. The movie was made off the book. Just spectacular. And I've told this story before. When the movie came out, they had a preview showing here in San Diego, and this is when the Chargers were here. And I went to that preview showing, and a large number of the Charger players went to that movie. And we came out of the movie after it went 2 hours and 5 minutes. And I stood there and I watched all these players come out of that movie, and they were all whispering to each other. And I just got the sense the players were really pissed off at the National Football League because they believed there was a massive cover-up about head injuries that could lead to this, CTE, and the 45 guys who committed suicide, etc. And the movie hit home for an awful lot of guys. And then where did that go? Even though Pete Rozelle in the NFL, I never saw the movie. I wasn't interested. NFL management people that I interviewed, no, I never saw the movie. Why the hell didn't you see it? Because it's Hollywood. Well, BS. Don't tell me it's not true. And months or a year after that came the concussion lawsuit. And right after that, before the trial started, came the $865 million settlement from the National Football League and the payment to the players in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, into the 80s, and to a degree into the 90s. But the NFL, we didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, out of the goodness of their heart, they wrote a check for $865 million.
Yeah, to make the problem go away.
Exactly. Well, it's a long answer to the question. If you've never seen the movie Concussion, those of you on this podcast, find it. Watch it. It might change the way you feel about the National Football League, but to stand in that theater, and it was in Poway, to stand in that theater and to see 50 Charger players come out of that thing after the preview, they all look really upset and they all look really pissed that, yeah, I think the NFL's been hiding all this data and all this information, and I think it's true.
Well, I'm glad they changed the kickoff rules. I mean, I
Yes.
think that's a legitimate good move by the league. It's just going to take a while for us to adapt to it.
Yeah.
But, they said most of those injuries happen on the kickoff, but then we always hear about quarterbacks. But are any positions more susceptible, do you think, to concussion?
Well, think about the combat in the offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah.
Those guys take blows every snap. Think about Mike Webster. What he played, 20 years? How many blows to the head he took, and that's why he wound up the way he wound up.
And that was back when hands to the face was legal, right?
Forearms shivers to the head
Yeah.
were legal. That whole Deacon Jones thing, coming off the edge with this. And, of course, it's illegal now, but it was allowed to go on and on. You got to see the movie. If you don't read books, that's okay. See the movie because that capsulizes it. Will Smith did a phenomenal job as the lead actor, as the doctor that discovered CTE. Okay, listen, we hope you've enjoyed this Monday podcast. This was really fun. We went a lot of different directions. Pennant race, baby. We're headed towards week 3 of the NFL season, and we got another weekend of college football. Hope you'll tell your friends. Want you to share, subscribe to what we offer on the YouTube channel. Want you to join me on my Twitter All-Star team. Just go to Hacksaw1090 on X, hit the follow button, and we want you to inform everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. with this podcast. Because we don't have any friends, and this guy wants to wear a Raiders shirt on the podcast. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating. That would help us a lot. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. John, take a deep breath. We got Thursday night football coming. Then we go to the 3rd weekend of the season. Have yourself a great afternoon.
Yeah, we got Padres-Astros tonight.
And we got the Dodgers. And we got 2 weeks to go in the baseball season. This is going to be fun. Hey, we thank you. Hope you're enjoying what we're doing on this podcast twice a week. Tell your friends. Have yourself a great day. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. Thanks for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.